Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I reached my breaking point making $8 an hour and getting treated like dirt. I'm a 20-year-old guy working at a fancy restaurant in the snobbiest parts town. People pull up in cars that cost more than my entire education. My job title is server assistant, which means I do all the grunt work while the servers charm the customers. I run around cleaning tables, delivering food and drinks, making sure servers only focus on making customers laugh. These servers walk out with $17 to $40 in tips from each table, while I get $8 an hour. I'm treated like I'm invisible most of the time. This Sunday started like any other. I came in for my shift, put on my black button-up shirt and apron, ready to hustle. My manager approached me with that look on his face. My manager told me in a condescending tone that I needed to deep clean the back today. Everything from floors to ice makers, walls, trash cans, and racks. He told me not to come to the front for any reason. I stared at him. None of those things were part of my job duties. We have specific cleaning staff who handle all that. These tasks would take maybe an hour and a half normally, but something inside me snapped. If he wanted deep cleaning, I'd give him the deepest clean this restaurant had ever seen. I got to work. I gathered every cleaning supply and started scrubbing. About 30 minutes later, the same manager came into the back. The manager told me that there were 4 tables needing cleaning and 2 other tables that had just been seated, demanding that I bring their drinks to them right away. I looked up from the floor I was scrubbing and gave him a deadpan stare. I told him I wasn't done with the cleaning yet. His face turned red. He said I could finish the cleaning later because they needed help at the front. I told him the back area was too filthy and that we wouldn't want a health inspector to walk in and see such a mess. He walked off. 2 hours went by, my knees were sore, and my hands were pruning from the cleaning solution, but I kept going. I was scrubbing every nook as if Chef Gordon Ramsay himself was going to inspect it. The manager came back, this time with a smirk. The manager said my cleaning looked like it would take all day, and suggested I should help the servers at the front since there was a huge Sunday rush. I gave him a thoughtful look. I told him he might be right, then went back to cleaning. He walked off again, slamming the door. 2 minutes before my shift ended, my knees, legs, and fingers were aching from hours of cleaning. I shuffled to the front where my manager was waiting. The manager asked if I had finally decided to come help. I looked at him without saying a word, walked to the time clock, and punched out. I told him I was no longer clocked in. I walked to my car while he blew up my phone with messages and calls. I didn't care. I had 5 days off, and he couldn't fire me since I had done exactly what he told me. Deep clean the back and not come to the front. It's been 3 weeks, and I still have my job. I'm the only one in this position, and nobody has applied to work for $8 an hour. My manager has been more respectful of my actual job duties. Some of the servers who saw what happened have started standing up for themselves too. Last week, one refused to take a 6th table when she was already swamped with 5. Now when our manager gets that tone with anyone, we all exchange looks. He knows we've figured something out. We might be at the bottom of the restaurant hierarchy, but we're essential, and we have more power than he wants us to realize. My manager thought he could push me around because I was just some kid making minimum wage, but he found out respect is a two-way street, even in the restaurant business. I'm a disabled man who relies on my service dog for almost everything in my daily life. My service dog isn't just an animal. He's my independence, my confidence, and sometimes my only companion through tough days. I was born with a progressive muscular condition that gradually took away my ability to walk. By the time I hit 25, I was using a wheelchair full-time. The transition wasn't easy. I struggled with depression and felt like I was losing my independence bit by bit. My doctor suggested I look into getting a service dog. There were applications, interviews, and a long waiting period. The day I was paired with my service dog changed my life. He's a golden retriever trained to help people with mobility issues. He picks up dropped items, opens doors, helps me transfer from my wheelchair, and gets help if I fall. He gave me back my confidence. We've been together for 3 years now. He wears his service vest whenever we're out, which identifies him as a working dog. Last Tuesday, we went to the local park. It's one of our favorite spots. Wide pathways, accessible areas, and friendly people. We were enjoying the sunshine and fresh air. I noticed a woman and her kid coming our way. The park is always busy with families. The kid looked about 6 or 7 and was pointing at my service dog. Kids love dogs. What happened next surprised me. The woman came up to us, reached down without saying a word, and grabbed my service dog's leash. I asked her what she was doing. She replied that her son wanted to pet my dog. I told her he was a service dog who was working and couldn't be distracted. Instead of letting go, she tightened her grip on the leash. She told me it was just for a minute and called me selfish. I told her to let go of his leash, explaining that he wasn't a pet but a medical device that I needed. The woman looked at me with an entitled expression. She said her son had been asking for a dog for months, and she kept telling him no. She insisted I should let him play with mine. I was getting worried. My service dog was looking back and forth between me and this stranger holding his leash. I asked the woman to stop. Without warning, she yanked the leash hard and started running away with my service dog. I was in shock. Someone was stealing my service dog in broad daylight. I tried to follow them, spinning my wheelchair as fast as I could, but the path was uneven. In my panic, one of my wheels caught on a crack in the pavement. My chair tipped, and I was thrown to the ground. The impact knocked the wind out of me, and I felt a sharp pain in my shoulder. I couldn't get up without my service dog or help. I lay there on the ground, struggling to breathe, watching this woman run away with my dog. People walked by, some staring, but no one stopped. That's when I heard a voice. A stranger asked if I was okay. I looked up and told him I wasn't, explaining that my service dog had just been taken by that woman and that I couldn't get back in my chair without help. He helped me back into my wheelchair. He asked which way the woman had gone. I pointed and he took off running. About 10 minutes later, he returned. My service dog was with him, tail wagging, and the woman was being held by the arm. The stranger had caught up to her at the park exit. When she refused to give my service dog back, claiming it was her dog, he blocked her from leaving and called the police. Another park visitor had witnessed everything and backed up our story. When the police arrived, they took statements from everyone. The woman kept changing her story, first saying she thought it was a stray dog, then saying she was just borrowing him to show her son. The police took her into custody for theft and assault. While they were dealing with her, the stranger introduced himself. He was a former military guy who happened to be at the park on his lunch break. He had a cousin who used a service dog, so he understood how serious the situation was. He asked if I needed anything else. I told him I was good now that I had my service dog back. I thanked him for what he did. He replied that nobody has a right to take something that important from someone else. We exchanged contact information, and he walked with us back to my car. About a week later, I got a letter from the woman who tried to take my service dog. It was sent from the county jail. I was hesitant to open it. The letter was an apology. She wrote that she had lost her job 3 months ago and had been struggling to provide for her son. He had been begging for a dog, and when she saw mine, something snapped in her head. She said she wasn't thinking clearly and regretted what she'd done. She was getting counseling through a court program and wanted to make amends. I don't know if her apology was genuine or if she was just trying to get a lighter sentence. Part of me wants to believe people can make terrible mistakes. Another part of me can't forget how she was willing to leave me helpless on the ground. The stranger who helped me became a friend. He checks in occasionally, and we've met for coffee a few times. He's come with me to meet with local disability advocacy groups where I share my story to educate people about service dogs. My service dog and I still go to the park, but I'm more aware of my surroundings now. I've added extra identification and a GPS tracker to his collar. It's sad that I have to take these precautions, but my service dog is too important to risk losing again. My great aunt got into a huge fight with her sister. The fight was so bad that her sister kicked her out, giving her 3 months to find a new place to live. When she told my mother about this, my mom offered to help. For 3 months, my mom spent every weekend taking her to look at different apartments, but nothing was good enough. This apartment had weird lighting, that one had a bathroom that was too small, another one was too noisy. There was always something wrong. After rejecting every place they looked at, she asked my mom if she could stay with us instead. My mom hesitated because she knew how special her aunt was, but she agreed anyway. I wish she hadn't. The problem started before she even moved in. She began acting entitled right away, making comments about how our home wasn't organized properly and how she would fix things once she moved in. My mom tried to ignore these red flags. Once she moved in, things got worse. Here's what she did. She threw away my stepdad's cooking spices and razors without asking. When confronted, my stepdad asked if she had thrown away his things. She denied it and acted offended that anyone would accuse her. She made my uncle cry and have a panic attack after criticizing him about his life choices. She told me I would never have a boyfriend because I wasn't feminine enough and had a rude attitude. She said men prefer feminine women, not girls who dress and act like me. I pointed out that I already had a boyfriend, and she said he must have low standards. She tried to throw out my mom's furniture for her own stuff. She dragged our chairs to the garage while we were out. When my mom found our dining chairs in the garage and asked about it, she said she found them ugly and uncomfortable, and that her furniture would be delivered the next day. My mom told her not to throw out our furniture, but she said she was just trying to improve our living space. She lost her key and accused us of stealing it because we didn't want her living with us. My stepdad found it where she left it, but instead of apologizing, she ran back to her room. She accused my mom of trying to hit her after she entered my mom's bedroom without permission. She claimed my mom attempted to strike her. My mom denied this, reminding her that our bedrooms were off limits. She then compared my mom to her sister, calling them both violent and cruel to an elderly woman. The final straw came when she cleaned our house with chlorine. I have health issues that make chlorine dangerous for me, and she knew this. When my mom confronted her about using chlorine despite knowing about my health condition, she complained that our house was filthy and she was just trying to make it livable. She dismissed the danger, saying a little chlorine never hurt anyone. Even as I was coughing, she accused me of being dramatic. 2 weeks after the chlorine incident, she announced she was moving out because we weren't welcoming and didn't try to accommodate her. She packed her clothes and personal items, but left behind multiple boxes, 2 old bookshelves, and a couch. She told us she didn't need that garbage and we could do whatever we wanted with it. I wanted to throw everything out immediately, but my mom kept it all in our garage and spare room. A year later, her sister's chauffeur showed up asking when he could pick up her belongings. My mom was surprised but told him she would only discuss this with my great-aunt directly. The next day, she messaged my mom saying that she and the chauffeur would be coming on a specific day and time to collect her belongings. My mom told her no one would be home then. When she asked when they could come get her stuff, my mom said she couldn't provide a time right then, but would call her when she figured out a good time. What my mom didn't tell her was that we learned she had been bad-mouthing our family to everyone. She told people we were cold-hearted monsters who kicked an elderly woman out of our home. She claimed she was just trying to help us because we lived like pigs. Worst of all, she told people that my grandma would be ashamed of my mom if she were still alive. This hurt my mom deeply. She lost her mother when she was young, and she used to think of my great-aunt as a second mother figure. Because of this, my mom didn't want her or the chauffeur in our house again. So my mom picked a day and time and messaged her with the details. On that day, my mom, uncle, and stepdad woke up early and moved all her stuff outside onto the sidewalk. When she and the chauffeur arrived, the door was closed and locked. My stepdad, watching through the window, heard her yell at the chauffeur to pick up the garbage and put it on the truck. Then they loaded everything and left without knocking on our door. I still can't believe someone would go through so much effort to recover things they called garbage a year earlier. I guess it wasn't about the stuff at all, it was about trying to create another opportunity to make us feel bad or cause more drama. I'm glad she's out of our lives now. I'm a light sleeper. The smallest noise can wake me up, and once I'm up, it takes forever to fall back asleep. When I moved into my ground floor apartment, I was happy it had its own separate entrance. No dealing with noisy neighbors in the hallway or slamming doors. The building was 5 floors, and I hoped being on the ground level would spare me from most apartment noise problems. For the first few months, everything was perfect. I worked as a night shift nurse then, so my days off were precious. I needed full nights of sleep to recover from the grueling 12-hour shifts dealing with emergencies and demanding patients. The job was rewarding but tiring, and proper rest was essential. Then winter came, and with it, my upstairs neighbor's apparent hearing loss. The first time it happened, I was in a deep sleep when suddenly gunshots and dramatic music woke me. It was 12 a.m. and the ceiling above me might as well have been a speaker. Some action movie was playing at what seemed like maximum volume. I lay there for a few minutes, hoping it was just a dramatic scene that would end soon. It didn't. I tried burying my head under my pillow, but the bass from the explosions vibrated through my mattress. After 20 minutes of torture, I got out of bed, grabbed my broom from the kitchen, and whacked the ceiling a few times. The volume decreased. I fell back asleep, grateful I didn't have to go outside in the freezing winter night to find this person's apartment. This became our routine for a while. The upstairs neighbor would turn up the volume. I'd hit the ceiling with my broom, and they'd turn it down. Then we had a few weeks of quiet. I thought maybe they'd finally bought headphones or moved out. I was wrong. One night, after a difficult shift where I'd lost a patient, I came home drained and tired. All I wanted was to sleep for 12 hours straight. Around 12 a.m., it started again. This time, it wasn't just loud, it was deafening. I could make out every word of the cheesy late-night movie playing on public television. I grabbed my broom and hit the ceiling. Nothing happened. I hit harder. Still nothing. The worst part was that the dialogue was almost bearable, and I'd start to drift off, but then a blaring commercial would come on and wake me again. By 2 a.m. I was furious and sleep-deprived. I threw on some clothes, grabbed my keys, and walked out to the main entrance of the building. Finding the right apartment was easy. I just followed the sound of explosions and dramatic music echoing down the hallway. When I reached the door, I could hear the entire movie through it. I knocked loudly. No response. I rang the doorbell. Nothing. I even shouted through the door, asking if anyone was there and telling them that their TV was too loud, asking them to please turn it down. Silence, except for the blaring television. And then I heard it. Snoring. Loud, rhythmic snoring underneath the TV noise. This person was sleeping through both their absurdly loud television and my door pounding. How was that even possible? Standing in the hallway, frustrated, I had a realization. As a ground floor resident, I had access to the service utility room to take out my garbage. In that room was the building's power panel. I went downstairs, unlocked the utility room, and found the breaker box. There were dozens of switches, none of them labeled properly. So I started methodically switching them off and on one by one, listening for any change upstairs. On the 8th switch, I heard silence from above. I had found my noisy neighbor's circuit. I left the breaker off and went back to my apartment, falling into a deep, uninterrupted sleep. 2 nights later, it happened again. This time I didn't bother with the broom or knocking on doors. I went straight to the utility room, flipped off his breaker, and returned to bed. A few days later, one more incident. Same solution. Breaker off, peaceful sleep. After that 3rd time, I never heard his TV again. Either he figured out what was happening, or he finally realized his TV was unreasonably loud. Maybe he invested in some headphones. I didn't know, and I didn't care. All that mattered was that I could finally get the rest I needed after my hospital shifts. Some battles you win with confrontation, others you win with circuit breakers. I regret nothing. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.